Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Deep Cover Podcast. I'm your host, Omar Zaran. Thank you, as always, for tuning in for another edition of the show. I have a repeat guest today. I have Adriana from Black Girls Love Football. If you guys remember, a few months back, we had her on to talk about the off season and Shador Sanders and a couple other things. And Adriana's a big Ravens fan, and that's a big reason why I have her on today because I wanted to talk about Lamar Jackson. But before we get into that, Adriana, thank you so much for joining me again. It's a pleasure to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me back. I'm super excited to chat with you today and your listeners. And I'm really excited that you have this new quarterback as a Giants fan. And I think that your Knicks are doing great too. It's a great time to be a New York sports fan right now.
Yeah, we got Jackson Dart and he's looked good and obviously we're playing for next season now, but with all the injuries
Yeah.
and all that. But the Giants are I hope headed in the right direction and Knicks are looking good, which
I
which I
think
love.
so. I don't know. This new Giants front just got me feeling good.
I love the defensive line, right? They
Hmm.
they they just they're really good in the pass rush, but can't keep a corner healthy to save our lives. So that's the real issue. Um All right, Adriana, we mentioned, you're a Ravens fan and Lamar Jackson, I do have to kind of brag on myself a little bit here. He's probably my best draft prediction that I've ever had because when he came
Yep.
out, I remember watching him at Louisville and I'm just like, this guy's awesome, and like he has the foot speed to, create an open space. And he was able to, make throws in college. A lot of people, dismiss that. They're like, well, he's so fast. He should be a wide receiver. Some scouts said that. And I was like, I don't know. This guy seems like he has the goods. And, he gets drafted by the Ravens and multiple MVPs and he turns into one of the best QBs in the league. But it still seems that a lot of people kind of put this designation on Lamar as he's just a running QB. It's kind of like you see these guys in college where, they do put up some passing numbers, but they're run first threats. I think about like Pat White at West Virginia back in the day who, yeah, he threw it a little bit, but mostly he was in the run game. But Lamar has turned into a competent pocket passer. So for you, why do you think that people still default to only categorizing him as a running quarterback?
I think that uh, I think that people are still calling him a running quarterback uh, because he is unapologetically Lamar Jackson. He is from South Florida. He had long, thick hair. He has diamonds in his mouth, and he has big diamond chains. And he's tatted, and he doesn't look like what any quarterback they think what a quarterback should look like. And so, with that being said, bec because of how he looks and how he shows up fully as his very much South Florida self, they refuse to believe that this man could be just as amazing as a passer as he is as a runner. And it is so unfortunate because he is an excellent passer. He should have I still think he should have been MVP last season. And um I just unfortunate that we know who the NFL was created for, how the NFL was created. As much as I love the game, I also am very aware of racism and how race and social constructs have formed opinions and also formed the minds of people who analyze sports. It just
Mm.
that is a fact, you know.
Yeah, and that I think is a big core piece to the Lamar story, which we will touch on the racial component a little bit later.
Hmm.
Let's continue with his talents though. So you mentioned how competent he's been as a pocket passer and elite as a pocket passer. Accuracy amongst the best. Obviously, his touchdown to interception ratio over the past few years, especially, has been incredible.
Incredible.
And so, do you think that when we look at him just as as a skill set talent, this is one of the most unique players we've ever seen in the history of the NFL.
Of course, I'm biased, but yes, I think Lamar Jackson is the best NFL player in the NFL right now, and I think he is the most unique player that he can even block. The man can block. He can throw a football. Not only is he an excellent passer, he not only is he an excellent runner, he's a fast runner. He's the fastest one on the field. He can also block for his running backs and his receivers once they got the ball in their hands. Where do you see that? I don't see anybody else blocking for their receiver or their running backs.
Mm,
Also, if
yeah.
you have the safe, I'm not the safest thing to do, but you know, he can do it all. He can do it all, and then some. He's so fast that he can throw the ball and catch the ball. He can throw the ball to himself and catch it and run it again, like he did in the AMC Championship game in 2023. I mean, 23, 24. You know? So where do you who else can you say can do that? Nobody.
Yeah, it's this thing that his athletic ability and his escape ability on top of his, refined passing ability that's kind of, been developed since he was a rookie, it makes it a situation, I think, where he's the type of player you think that you always have a chance, right?
Mhm.
When like you could be down a couple scores and you're like, okay, well, all you need is a play or two from Lamar, and then you got a chance. And it makes me think about when we talk about MVP and how important the player is. Obviously, every team's starting quarterback is probably their most important player, but I think with the Ravens, it's especially true, right? Because he when they were playing those few games without him, I mean, the team, quite frankly, looked a little lost offensively. And, it's not like the team is completely bereft of talent, but I think it's a statement to just how good he is. Do you think
Mhm.
that those games kind of really highlighted just how important he is to this team as a whole?
Yeah, I definitely feel like the last but before we hit Mark ago, um, were like the saddest weeks of my life. I was like, yeah, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? Like, why am I at this game? Like, I was like, I'm just here for the vibes, you know? I was just at the game for the vibes because clearly, like, there was no, like, I didn't understand why Cooper Rush was playing at all. And it just felt like the team felt deflated, the hope in the air. The crime rate in Baltimore went back up slightly. Like everything just was like just dark and dim to let those 4 weeks that he was gone. I don't think I don't think I haven't smiled. I didn't realize it until Thursday. And I was like, "Did I don't think I smiled on Thursday. And then that was how intense that was. And I know it sounds crazy to some, but that was really how intense that situation was. It was just like, yeah, no Lamar. By not having Lamar, it felt like I'll give you a great example. Like when we had that Rams game, if we had Lamar playing in that game, or even if Snoop played in that game, we would have been fine. But to not have somebody who we knew could give us a chance with having Metabike out, by having Calvin Noy out, having Roquan Smith out, it was just like, all right, the defense might not be able to show up, but also the offense uh was looking real slim.
Mhm.
And it was just so frustrating as a fan because you know what type of talent you have. So to see that, it was god awful.
I mean, the crazy thing about it is that you consider their record, coming into this past week, and, they were still considered alive for the division, which, there were multiple games back, but I think they knew Lamar was coming back, and they're like, okay, when we get him back, he has the ability to kind of really elevate this team, which I think is the best thing you could say about any QB is that you could be 2-5 or whatever, and now 3-5, and they still think that you're going to be able to rattle off a bunch of wins and get back in the mix. And I think that is a testament to how big of an impact he is on that team. So I do want to kind of discuss here the way that the broader conversation about some of these top tier quarterbacks has been, in comparison to the way it is about Lamar. And, you think of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. These players get mentioned in the same breath as Lamar. And, I find there's a difference in the way that we talk about them, and some people might say, oh, that's just the playoff success, but Justin Herbert hasn't had any playoff success. And yet he's still revered by so many people for just the raw arm talent and all that. It feels like they're always couching the Lamar praise. It's like, yeah, he's great at this, but yeah, he's awesome at this, but. And why do you think that is?
I think, um, if I could be frank, I think that there's always going to be people who want to say, and that's why he was picked 32nd, and that's why I said he should have been a running back. Like people don't want to be wrong. Like Colin, what is his name? Colin Howard,
Yeah, Cowherd,
Cowherd.
yeah. Mhm.
Like, he said he was wrong, but even somebody like him, they don't wanna say they're wrong. Like, the guy who said that 49ers were gonna knock us in our mouth, or no, he said that the 49ers were gonna beat the S out of us on Christmas, and we went into San Francisco and did and we ruined the 49ers Christmas. People like that, they look for, because they might have been wrong about that one game, they always say, but and I see people who are couch quarterbacks that do this. It's really all about like um, the traditional sports fan that thinks they know everything. Maybe not have not even played, anything other than Madden in their life. Probably don't even have a good Madden score, but they got so much to say about my quarterback, and they need a reason to be right. They need a reason to say, "I'm an expert. Here's why you should trust me." They need a qualifier. And they need something to say, "Oh yeah, but he'll never get a Super Bowl ring." But like, "Oh yeah, of course he's fast, but he'll never. He can't beat Kansas City." It's always a but, because they're trying to make an excuse for to validate their opinion about Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it feels like they had the original take and the original take being, "Oh, this guy isn't gonna be good. If he is, he's gonna have to change positions." The whole thing. We know the scouting report from the draft.
Mhm.
And it's almost like you're so married to the take that you're unable to just say, "You know what? I whiffed on
Hey,
that one."
would. Yup.
Yeah, like I whiffed on that one. I've had that happen multiple times. Like, I
Yep.
thought Anthony Richardson would be awesome, for example, right? Like, I was
Dang.
wrong on that one. He's a project, and you know, uh, I missed on that one, right? It's okay. We have opinions that
Mhm.
we miss. It's okay, and it feels like when they say, "Oh, he's just a runner," or whatever, but then the way they present Josh Allen to you is, "Look at this guy. He could do it all. Do it with his arm. Do it with his feet." And it's just like,
He's so
yeah,
perfect.
it's like there's 2 different they kinda are similar but different, him and Lamar, in the sense of Josh is a little bit more of the power style because of his size, right?
Yeah,
Like,
he's
he's all
big.
about the arm
Big
strength,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when he's in the open field, it's kind of people struggle to tackle him for the size reasons, whereas with Lamar, it's more for the speed reason. But it's the same thing in the sense of both great arms, both great mobility, both great escapability, and yet we talk about one in one way and the other in a different way. And that brings me to something you alluded to already, which is the way that the racial component here, which there's no escaping it, right? You have,
Nope.
you said Lamar is unapologetically Lamar, right? He doesn't, there's this thing in sports, I think, where a lot of guys sanitize their image to get more marketing deals, to curry more favor, to be more palatable by the masses. I think Patrick Mahomes does this a lot, where he's never going to go too far off one end, in fears that he might polarize some people. Whereas Lamar is, like
Mhm.
you said, this is a guy who's from Florida, and he speaks with the accent. He's a darker skinned man, and there's I noticed this as a Knicks fan when Julius Randle kind of had his ascension before he was traded. And there was this weird undertone that darker skinned athletes get, I think. And so I guess if you could
Very,
speak on your opinion on that and the way that the racial component has kind of driven the way a lot of people talk about Lamar.
I think unfortunately, as race has always pretty much like been like the thing that people are always afraid to talk about, but it's very obvious in like how they comment and analyze games. I feel like you can go back and look at an example I like to use is when the first George Bush ran for president, and he used this idea, this image of a black killer. He uh he dehumanized a black man, turning a black man into this animal, this vicious monster, in a way to help him get elected. And I think back to that moment because that is still something that impacts specifically like uh darker men, darker men who play any sport. It definitely continues to dehumanize them and treat them as though they're strong, they're this, they're tough, they're that, but they're not treated as elite. They're not treated as as a true athlete. Instead, they are that the media is who I would say is they. The media pushes this narrative of the I'm using air quotes of the thug or the monster, and it continues to just be pushed. Even I think a few years ago, who did LeBron did like a photo shoot that I was like, no, bro, like no, like you just perpetuated the stereotype that like we need to be gone away from. I think it was a Vogue shoot that he did, and I was like, this is exactly like what the problem is like with mass media and when it comes to like black male athletes is like this portrayal of being this like we're not like it's like this thing that we're not human, and we are.
Mm.
And but it's even more dangerous as an athlete because it it also adds to the conversation of shut up and just play, shut up and just dribble, shut up and not don't have a political opinion, don't have anything but make my help me make my sports bets, and I can say whatever I want to about you, but you can't talk back to me.
Mm.
That's kind of where I always think about. As you know, I was a history major and also my master's is in teaching, and so I always use like historical context whenever I'm looking, especially at race and when it comes to race, politics, and sports.
And you think about it too from when you focus in on the struggle of the black quarterback historically, people look today and we see, I think to start the year, over half of the teams had a starting black quarterback, and
Yes.
which is
Mhm.
great progress, of course. There's no denying that, but we're not that far removed from the ideas of the thought that black QBs weren't as intelligent enough to be able to run an quote unquote complex offensive system, and
Yeah.
we're not far removed from just looking at them only for athletic capability. And I think it underscores this idea of, yeah, you have great physical traits and you were blessed with these physical traits, but when it comes to being cerebral and analyzing defenses and that sort of thing, they kind of wrote those guys off. You think about somebody in the '90s like Steve McNair, who, had some mobility, yes, but
Hmm.
he was well known for being a prolific passer and reading defenses and that sort of thing. He had great success in the NFL. And I often felt like he didn't get his fair shake until later in his career. You look at a guy like him before that, Warren Moon, who had to go to Canada because people were saying you can't play QB. Like, yeah, that was the '80s, but that's not that far removed,
It's not.
from and, we like, I think about the Giants. The Giants, to this day, have only started 2 black quarterbacks in their entire history, and that's, well, 3, excuse me, Tyrod Taylor, Geno Smith, and and Russell Wilson this year. And it's just kind of like there is still this notion about it, I think. And I think the way that Lamar kind of is presented and is talked about is proof of that. So do you think that a lot of these prejudices are ever going to go away when it comes to black QBs, or is this just something that is the state of reality when it comes to the way that bigger media types analyze the position?
I think that it'll definitely continue to be challenged and it will go away. We can't it's not it has to evolve. And I think
Mm,
it goes and I think how that happens is having more representation and ownership offices, having more representation in the GM position, having more representation as black women still only make up, I think I'm what I don't want it to be completely incorrect. I have to go back to the Wiseman report, but I think it was like black women only make up like 2.1% of like the agents in the sports industry
mm,
in the United States. And that's like that's like partially why, right? So challenge like we should be in more black people in particular, black and brown people should be in more positions of ownership and authority when it comes to sports, especially considering how many people are making billions of dollars from this sport and we should have more stake in it. And I think the way that we challenge those quote unquote norms that were created since the NFL was integrated, we challenge those norms by having more physicians and seats at the table because we bring the table, like we're bringing in the dollars and make sure the table is paid for. So we should be at the table. And especially like even in the media space. Stephen A. Smith can't be the only black man that's making all the money on television. And
mm,
he definitely won't be he wasn't the first, he won't be the last, but also he can't be the only mouthpiece. Like he doesn't speak for Black America. He doesn't know the entire Black, American experience. Same for myself. I had Black girls love football, but I don't know every Black woman's experience as a football fan, and I want to share every Black woman's experience as a football fan. So I just think really like representation, and I'm not sure if you know of the organization Diverse Representation, which works to create spaces and create a collective for people of color who are in sports. So they have events all across the country where they're helping you find resources. They post job positions. They host different conventions. They are just doing so many amazing diverse representation was it's is just doing so many amazing things in the sports and entertainment world to make sure that we do have a seat at the table. So I am excited about that, and I think that movement is just beginning.
You talk about like kind of the representation. I want to give you a little bit of story. I think I shared this on a recent episode, but I'll share it again. Is so for me as an Arab American, we don't have a ton of athletic representation in the US, right? Like
Mhm,
there's not a ton of Arab players, there's almost no Arab coaches, definitely no Arab owners. And so when we get, somebody who is in that type of a space, there's a sense of pride that you end up having, right? So
yeah.
when Robert Saleh was coach of the Jets and now was defensive coordinator for the 49ers, you know, that was somebody who I was like, "Yeah, this is a guy who represents us," right? And you had a
Mhm,
sense of pride. Like, I'm a Giants fan, I'm not gonna be rooting for the Jets, but I wanted him to do well. He's in San Francisco now, I want him to do well as a D coordinator there because it's a good representation for us and a good way to shine the light that we're not what the stereotype is. And
right.
the the further point is, like, the 49ers themselves, they've kinda done a lot of, initiatives in the NFL's kind of global awareness campaign that they have where they have exclusive, um, marketing and communication rights for the Middle East, and so they run camps and they have, like, a social media page that's Arab language, proficient,
Mm,
and so to me, that's great representation, and that just goes to show you what reaching out and extending your hand to a certain group can do for that group. And I think that
mhm,
the same thing applies on a larger scale when you are looking at black representation in the NFL because you are getting more black coaches, but now too, again, as they go more because you notice that a lot of the black head coaches that come up from being defensive coordinators a lot of the times, and that's because I think for so long you didn't allow these great offensive minds who were black to get a seat at the table for coaching. A guy who I think is making great headway right now on the college level is Deshaun Jackson, former wide receiver for the Eagles, who's coach for State, HBCU, and they are doing excellent right now. He actually
They
just
are.
they just had a game against Norfolk State, who's coached by Michael Vick. And
Right.
I like that we're seeing that on the college level. I'd love to see more of it on the NFL level. I think like Byron Leftwich was like a position coach for a while, obviously a former black quarterback who played in Jacksonville. And I'm hoping we see more of that, which is incredibly important. Um, Talking about the image of QBs, if you look at the way that Lamar is treated, and you look at the way some of the other black QBs are treated, and it almost feels like the message is being sent that, hey, tone it down a little bit, right? And there's a double standard. I'll admit to it with the quarterback that I follow, Jackson Dart. This dude's allowed to kind of act all buck wild on the sidelines, right? And we love it, right?
Mhm.
Because like, look at this energy. It's awesome, right? Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, whatever. And but if it's a black QB doing that, then the narrative machine starts. So is the message right now that the NFL and the wider media spectrum is sending to black QBs like, be yourself, yes, but don't be yourself too much or too publicly.
It feels like the wider message is don't be yourself too publicly.
Mm.
It's like, um, it's he has to be what is it? I'm thinking the word, how to say my
Palatable.
accent.
Yeah.
Palatable. My accent was like fighting me. Palatable, like marketable. And I'll admit, and I'm sure like if somebody was listening to this, they probably would be like, well, Adriana, I I had to fight with myself when it came to Lamar because as a Lamar Jackson fan, I want Lamar to have more. Uh, I want Lamar to have like more opportunities and more sponsorships, more brand partnerships. And I had to tell myself, who cares? I had to tell myself this. Like Lamar doesn't care. Why do you? Like
Mm.
he shouldn't have to water himself down for you or anyone. He shouldn't have to uh change who he is or his image, his teeth, how he dresses, nothing. Like, and I even had somebody who said it to me who knows I'm a big Lamar fan, and she was like, when is your quarterback gonna comb his hair? And I was like, I felt like, that's a little that's definitely sounds anti-black because his hair is meant to be he's happy and nappy, leave him alone. Like, he's wearing his hair out. Like, what's wrong
Yep.
with him wearing his hair? It wasn't even nappy, it was just he just had a nice curly blowout, and he just took his braids out. Like, leave him alone. And I think even when you look at, like, Jalen Hurts, it's like Jalen has his different endorsements, but he's still not given the respect he deserves. He's still treated like he's not a top 10 quarterback and just got a freaking MVP from the Super Bowl. So it's just like I look at Jalen and Lamar similarly. They both don't give the media a lot to, like, chew on, right? They don't give, like, any sound bites to the media, and whatever sound bites they do give them, oh, good god, they eat them a lot, like, they
Mhm.
pound on them. Like, Lamar get that one thing about the video games being in the locker room, and I mean, the media's what? We've been 5 days in since we heard that, and that's all they wanna talk about, like, even when he went on Prime, because I don't think Witt likes him. When he went on Prime for the interview, they still were asking him about it, and he was just like, "Yeah, that's what I did. Next question." Like, I love how him and so what I think they hate about Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson is that they don't give him a lot to talk about, and then what so they want them to have more to talk about, and they're like, "Okay, no, I'm here to play ball. I am a professional athlete, and you'll treat me as such. I'm not here to be some type of media frenzy. I'm not here to be, some type of entertainment for you all. Of course, I'm gonna entertain you on the field, but that's it. That's all."
That kind of brings me to my last question here, which is we seem to do this only with the quarterback position. We don't do it when a wide receiver is acting crazy during the game, right? We don't do it for defensive ends or defensive tackles or whatever. It's just that QB position. There's this weird coveting of the position, I think. And, it is an incredibly important position, as we know. It's the most important position in football by far. And you could argue the most important position in professional sports in terms of
Mhm.
responsibility and the impact that you have. But is this kind of showing that the way we view good qualities in a leader is inherently kind of rooted in this kind of racist foundation in America where we have I was recently reading a book. It's called Black AF History. I don't know if you've ever read it before, but it's
Not
kind
yet, but
of
I'll add it to my list.
it's good. It's good. And it's basically kind of telling the history of America through the lens of black people. And the way that they were marginalized and taken advantage of and just set up in a rigged system. And sometimes I think that we almost view what a leader should look. I tell you, hey, there's a quarterback and he's a leader. He does this, he does that. I feel like the mainstream media talking points are probably going to make you paint a picture in your mind of somebody that looks like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady. They're not painting a picture in your mind that looks like Lamar Jackson. So do you think that that's kind of the root of this, or am I going a little bit too far in that regard?
I think your audience in particular would agree with you, and I agree. Um, because as I told you, I'm a history person. Like the way I look at history is um the same way. Like I think that it's unfortunate, and I know there's a large population of people who say it's all lives matter, racism doesn't exist. I have a black friend, I have a Latino friend, and to those people, okay, maybe what I'm about to say is not for you. But to all of my friends who know that racism does exist and that racism it is an institutional problem. Like right, it's not just like a bias is like, human to human interaction, but
Mhm.
this type of racism that impacts the NFL is institutional. And it's not something that, it didn't go away with Barack Obama and unfortunately it almost has been amplified after President Obama left office. Not almost, it has. Um, I think that the institution of racism as it impacts and kind of shaped the NFL. It definitely like has pushed this idea that like in order for you to be a leader, yeah, you do have to look like a Tom Brady. We have to this day, everybody's still compared to Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, but more so Tom Brady. People aren't really compared to Peyton Manning as much as they are to Tom Brady. It's always Tom Brady. This Tom Brady. That. I mean, the even like the what am I trying to say? Even like different social media posts that come from sports media, they probably post something about a Tom Brady fact at least once every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Like you would think he's still playing the way they post him.
Yeah.
So uh, I think even Tom Brady might. I think even Tom Brady agrees. I think anybody who uh understands like race and politics in America and how sports can either bring people together and also how it can like kind of show the ugliness of racism it exposes the ugliness of racism as well. I think they would agree. I think Lamar is a leader in the locker room, right? And so it's are so many other of the quarterbacks around the league. But unfortunately, because of this, and I'm using air quotes, y'all, this standard that has been set due to like institutional racism, we end up seeing that, it's kind of questioned.
I can't let you get out of here without talking about the Ravens as a whole, and what they have looking ahead. So as of right now, as we record, they're 3-5, and they're second place in the division in the AFC North behind the Steelers, who are 5-3. So you still have 2 games against the Steelers head to head. Obviously, those are going to be huge. But look at the schedule here, Adriana. Browns, Jets, Bengals the next 3 weeks. 3 very winnable games with Lamar back. So, how are you feeling about the team? You think they can, get to the top of the division here and get into the playoffs?
I don't like to jinx my team, so I will just say, uh, that Lamar Jackson is back, and I will see everybody in the Bay Area in February.
I love that. Yeah, I'm looking at this. I was like, okay, Browns, they're who knows what they're going to be doing at QB here coming up. The Jets are trading away assets and they're punting on the season, building for the future. The Bengals defense can't stop anybody, and you guys got them twice. The Steelers, you don't know who you're getting week to week, and you got them twice. And then
Mhm.
you towards the end there, you got the Patriots and the Packers, which could be interesting as week 16 and 17. Patriots might have their playoff berth locked up by then. So who
I'm hoping
knows?
so.
You
Yeah,
know what's
my
so
prop my only fear so I've said this since I think week 2. Yeah, I said this since week 2 when I was trying to be okay with the Lions loss. We will lose. I was like, 12, I was like 12, what did I say, 11-6 or 12-6?
will be
I don't know.
11-6 and 17.
Yeah, 11-6, right? 17 games, not 18, as much as they freaking wanted to be. Um, huh. I'm which well, 6, that means it's only one more game we could lose. I think we'll lose to the Steelers. I My fear down the stretch is that that Packers game is gonna mean something, and that's my biggest fear, is that Packers game is gonna mean something to the Packers and to us.
Yeah,
That's
that's
my
the
that's
weird
my
one.
that's my well, yeah, because that's week 17, right? Now week 18.
Correct. Yep.
I hope the Packers
Yeah.
don't need that game.
Yeah, if they had beaten Carolina, then you're probably on the path where they're probably in a better position to win their division because they're going to be head to head with Detroit and depending on what Minnesota does down the stretch. And but losing that game to the Panthers was
I
such a
know,
big,
I know.
big loss for them, and
I'm so
uh,
frustrated with watching the Packers because it's like I every time I want to root for Jordan Love, I'm not sure who he is, and it's just the lack of consistency. But I know everyone has been saying like, Jordan Love at the second half, he's a second half type of player, and he's gonna do so great in the second half of the season. I just don't do great against our defense, Jordan. That's all I gotta say. Don't get in the way of my Lombardi, please.
yeah, don't you just take that week off, Jordan. You'll be all right. All
Yeah.
right, well, Adriana, thank you as always for joining me on another episode. I always love having you on. If you could just let everybody know where they could follow all the cool stuff you're doing right now.
Well, guys, you can follow all the cool stuff that I'm doing at Black Girls Love Football on all platforms. Created a YouTube page, have not posted on it yet. I'm really gonna post on this week for real, y'all. But yeah, YouTube, Instagram, Threads. Uh, Find me at Black Girls Love Football.
Hey guys, make sure to give Adriana a follow. I'm pretty I'm on Threads quite a bit, typically, and she is one of the best follows on that platform that you could have. So make sure to give her a follow on all those platforms. That will be linked in the show notes of the description of this episode. If you like this podcast, please make sure to give us a subscription and follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Until next time, thank you for joining me on the another edition of the Deep Cover Podcast.